He is Great Britain's ultimate weapon, the super spy from MI6, the lover of ladies, driver of fast cars, shooter of guns, and wearer of fine tuxedos. Wherever evil may lurk while plotting global chaos and destruction, he is there to save the day. He is our greatest hero, keeping us all safe so that we may live to die another day. When some villains think the world is not enough, he is there with his license to kill to stop the skyfall. With stories for our eyes only. Working for His Majesty's Secret Service, he is Britain's greatest hero. But this video is about his nephew. Hello there everyone, I'm Matt from Geekstalgia, and on this Stalgia-Trip we are taking a look back at James Bond Jr.
Bond. James Bond Jr.
Debuting in September of 1991, James Bond Jr. was a co-production between Murakami Wolf Swenson Productions and MGM Animation, lasting for just one season of 65 episodes, airing on CITV here in the UK. The show told the story of James Bond's nephew, who's also named James Bond, but Jr., despite being his nephew, not his son.
That doesn't make sense.
Young James is a student at Warfield Academy, where he studies alongside IQ, grandson of Gadget Man Q, and Gordo Leiter, son of Felix Leiter. It's weird and dangerous how so many spies have kids going in the same line of work, studying at the same place. Each episode we see James Jr. and a couple of his friends jet off on a high adrenaline adventure, battling against the workings of the Spectre-like group known as, I forgot this written down, Saboteurs and Criminals United in Mayhem, or SCUM for short. While off on his adventures, the remaining good guys will stay behind and carry out the B-plot of each episode at Warfield Academy. As well as new heroes to the James Bond mythology, new villains were created, names like Dr. Derange, Skullcap and the Worm, among many others. But it also saw appearances from classic James Bond villains such as Goldfinger, Dr. No, Oddjob, Jaws and Knick-Knack. And of course you can't have James Bond without Bond girls, and you can't have Bond girls without pun-based Bond girl names. Weather forecaster Wendy Day, a seismologist daughter named Terry Firma, US Army Lieutenant Shelley Casing, and who could forget the daughter of archaeologist in El Dorado, Lotta De Niro. James Bond, the character, was originally created in 1953 by Ian Fleming in the book Casino Royale, and would go on to appear in more novels by Fleming and later other authors after Fleming's death in 1964. James Bond would then become a global media franchise after his first movie Dr. No was released in 1962, with James Bond being famously played by Sean Connery.
Bond. James Bond.
Dr. No was then followed by 24 more films, with the most recent No Time to Die released in 2021.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
With more to come in the future. James Bond would go on to become one of the most successful media franchises ever created. Movies, more books, video games, toys. There's even a James Bond museum at the top of the Austrian Alps. The films alone have made over $7 billion at the worldwide box office, so you can see why the producers want more of that sweet, sweet cash by making a TV show spin-off. And that sweet, sweet cash was something that the producers Eon wanted, as this show was made during a time with some legal shenanigans preventing another Bond movie being made after Timothy Dalton's second mission.
Bond, James Bond.
James Bond Jr. was the second attempt to make an animated series based on Fleming's creation. Screenwriter Kevin McClory announced in 1988 that he was producing an animated series entitled James Bond vs. Spectre with an unnamed Dutch company, but the series never went into production. Step in film rights holders Eon Productions, who along with Murakami Wolf Swenson and MGM would produce what became known as James Bond Jr., debuting 30th September of 1991 for a total of 65 episodes. And although it only lasted one season, it is still to this day the only James Bond TV series ever produced. Originally, Eon Productions had approached the guys at Deke to make James Bond Jr., wanting to undercut McClory and get on that sweet, sweet merchandising and syndication revenue that other franchises were seeing from making animated series. A deal was reached between Eon, Deke, Hasbro and Claster Television. Hasbro to produce the toys, and Claster was Hasbro's TV distribution part. However, Eon was very protective of their baby. Eon wanted to protect their franchise as much as they could and wanted the series limited to using only elements from the movies and nothing from Fleming's novels. Robbie London, who was at the time Executive Vice President in charge of creative affairs at Deke, waived his exclusivity deal with Deke to work on a for-hire basis with Eon to produce the show's Bible. After Robbie London finished his work on the show's Bible, Eon, for reasons that are still unclear to this day, suddenly moved production away from Deke to Murakami Wolf Swenson Productions. The only reason I can think of is because Murakami's Wolf Swenson were enjoying pretty huge success with a little known TV show at the time called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know if you heard of it or not. Bill Hutton and Tony Love were brought in to produce the show and direct the series, and did it at a very demanding pace. They completed all 65 episodes of the series within 12 months, overseeing all aspects of the show's production, from voice actor selection, artwork, character design, and script supervision. Eon Productions also brought in an on-site contact, John Parkinson, to ensure that all characters did not turn more adult-orientated and to ensure the show stayed away from the film franchise. The female characters were to not be drawn too sexily. References to alcohol were strictly forbidden, and the way James spoke to the ladies was to be drastically changed, and he was not to be called 007 Jr. Despite the junior part of the name, James Bond Jr. is actually the Big Bond's nephew, even though Fleming's novels specifically state that Bond is an only child with no living relatives. The producers didn't want the audience to think that Uncle Bond had an ex-wife or a child out of wedlock. So the idea that was made that Uncle Bond had a nephew named after him, but for some reason they still called him Junior.
Bond. James Bond. Jr.
James Jr. was made to be 17 years old, young enough for a young audience to relate to, but old enough to head out on very dangerous missions, and his personality was based mostly around Roger Moore's interpretation of Uncle Bond.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
And for all 65 episodes he was voiced by Corey Burton. Joining Burton in the voice cast was Jeff Bennett as IQ and Jan Robertson as Gordo Lighter for every episode. Making up the rest of the cast were Kath Soucie, Pat Music, Michael Gough, Julian Holloway, and many, many others. Reception to the show was mixed. Despite being made by the same production company that was behind the phenomenon at the time that was The Turtles, and having the name of a well-established global franchise, it did not yield the staying power and success expected. Eon Productions and Bond fans did not consider James Bond Jr. to be canon to the movies or the books at all. More of a small curiosity. I suppose now we can just call it a multiverse story. However, the idea of a young Bond did carry on through time. The Young Bond series of novels by Charlie Higson have enjoyed great success, and the show could be seen as a precursor for the Alex Rider series of novels by Anthony Horowitz. Despite the mixed reception that the show had, I liked it. I enjoyed watching the show in my younger years and have fond memories of making my own spy missions and adventures with the toys. Speaking of toys, repeated takers of my money's Hasbro released a line of 4.5 to 5.5 inch action figures, all featuring 5 points of articulation in 2 waves. 6 figures in each wave, including Junior and his allies, plus young James in his normal attire and mission-based variants.
A James Bond Jr. secret mission, but scum is ready. Walker the Plank hooks IQ. Jaws is having a snack. Odd Job is flipping his lid, but IQ packs a punch, and James Bond Jr. dives into action. Mission accomplished. James Bond Jr. figures and vehicles sold separately.
As well as the figures, 3 vehicles were released, including James Bond's sports car. Alongside the toy line, Eurocom developed a side-scrolling video game of the show published by THQ on Nintendo's NES and SNES. A board game was also created and released by Crown and Andrews, as were a collection of novels based on the show released by Puffin Books, and a 12-issue run of comics published by Marvel Comics. A selection of episodes were released on VHS in the UK and the good old US of A in 1992, but the full series has never seen the light of day on either VHS or DVD, and as far as I can see, no episodes have ever been released on any streaming site, but they can be found unofficially right here on YouTube. And that, guys, was our look back at James Bond Jr. If you were a fan of the show, why not drop a comment in the comment section below? While you're there, why not do those wonderful YouTube things I'm supposed to tell you to do, like, share, subscribe. But as always, you do you. If you want to do it, awesome. I will love you if you do. I'm not going to hate you if you don't. It's your life, your choice. You do you. But until the next video, thank you for joining me and watching this. As always, it's massively appreciated when you do watch. But until the next video, take care of yourselves, take care of your fellow humans, and I hope to see you all again soon.
The name's Bond. James Bond.